Hello and welcome to Monarchism Unfiltered. I'm one of your hosts, Mkoqsc,
I'm your other host, Bronze.
and due to severe scheduling issues, not only has this episode been delayed multiple times, we also are going to have a bit of a rant one here, because again, scheduling issues. So basically this is going to be a rant episode, very free form, whatever we can think of. So, Bronze, anything you want to rant particularly about?
I'm all free. So I think you can start us off.
Okay. So, it's kind of hilarious that we're going to do a rant episode, even though one of the few bits of constructive criticism we have received is that rant episodes are not well liked because we get too scatterbrained with it.
They haven't seen nothing yet.
Oh, that is true. I mean, the listener, what you're getting here is it may not seem like it, but still a very focused version of both me, well, mostly me. Bronze is in general a very focused person. Our VCs tend to be far more weird.
No, I mean as in this episode's gonna be because
Oh yeah,
it's been a minute. We're already fucked.
quite right, Bronze. Quite right. Okay, so what to talk about? I mean, we can't talk about contemporary politics. That would be bad, and would horribly date this. Listener, if you have an episode topic, don't read the Tarik-I-Rashidi the night before we record a podcast, because now my mind is just fucking montages of epic and based step people in Central Asia doing epic and based step things. And also the Mughals converting to Muslim, to Islam in the first generation, which is still an absurd thing to me.
But little bit of. I think we need context because Mkoqsc said Mughals, which is the American English term for the Moguls of India, and I believe that Mkoqsc was in fact referring to uh, Tughlaq Temur, the first ruler of Mogulistan, which is different because that was the eastern half of the Chagatai Khanate, which split off due to religious differences, and then its first ruler converted to Islam, sort of making the split seem a bit pointless.
Redundant. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
and
not the
you're right.
it's not the Moguls of India. It's the Moguls of Mughalistan.
Though
But
fun
don't worry.
fact, the fun fact, there was actually one of the a Jesuit missionary in China actually confounded the Moguls of Mogulistan with the Mughals of India. But like apparently, I was not alone in like swapping the name around. If you were in the 16th century to 17th, apparently it was a fairly common mistake.
I was just
If
about to mention that exact story with I think his name was Luciano Pech.
yeah. Well, I hope these first 3 minutes are a good cautionary tale. Don't read the Tarik-I-Rashidi before a podcast, because then it's all horses soaring across the steppes.
But
Even
do
though
read
this
the
is
Tarik-I-Rashidi because it's fire.
it is fire. In hindsight, it's kind of, since this is clearly going to be a Central Asian history focused episode, at least the first bits of it. Kind of weird how the end of like the big step empires of Central Asia, like their hands aren't talked as much because okay, we had the Kazakh Khanate, or to be more specific, the Greater Jews, which was like the. I mean, it's complicated if it was a Khanate, if it isn't. Again, like the end of the Central Asian Steppe Empire was in some ways humiliating when you consider what these steppe empires used to do. Just barrel in through civilized well, civilized. What am I? An 1800s historian, barreled through settled lands and just established dynasties there that would often be patrons of the arts and cultures. Chinggisids, Timurids. I mean, I shouldn't have started with Chinggisid because Chinggisid technically includes all of them, but that's a different matter. I suppose the Ottomans and the Seljuks also count, though they're not Mongolic, they're Turkic.
But even that they can sort of, like Chinggisid a little bit. The Chinggisid's got a little bit fire with it.
Uh, it's
You know,
just
I
weird.
mean, that's a part of history that sort of, as it were, falls into the crease. I
True
think
enough.
Scott C. Levi mentioned this in his thingy, The Bukharan Crisis, an interconnected history of the 18th century Central Asia, about how like Central Asian history is often viewed as like a means to an end, right? So it's like we study like the Mongols because they conquered all these places, or we study the very, fuck the Uzbek ones. What are they called?
The Khanate of Kokand,
No, 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 no. The
the
family.
Shaibanids. Oh, the Shaibanids.
Shaibanids. Yeah, yeah, thank you. Because they were like an interconnected trade thingy, right? So it's like we study them often in the lens of other. I don't want to say settled because the Uzbeks were settled as well, but I
Yeah,
mean, a
just
lot of like if you ask a lot of people, they'd think otherwise. Unfortunately,
well,
it's not. Well, there
to
were
carry on.
nomads in modern day Uzbek. I'm getting way derailed. Point is, right, is that it's often viewed as like a means of like understanding, say, Chinese or European or Middle Eastern history, right? Not as its own thing, right? Because it was just like, oh, it's like, oh, the Silk Road was there, and then they traded through it, and that's what we need to know about it, right? That's what he talks about in his book.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that is sadly true because it is a fascinating history in of its own, especially on the cultural aspect. Many a great poet and mathematician was produced in Central Asia. Um, but talking about the Uzbeks, isn't it kind of weird that Tamerlane is considered an Uzbek national hero? Am I the only one who finds that odd? Like real odd? Because
I don't think it's that weird.
the Uzbeks destroyed the Timurid Empire. They were they were they their that, their hands are bloody with Timurid blood. You cannot really claim, oh yeah, no, Tamerlane, hero of Uzbekistan, while the Uzbeks themselves were largely responsible for the fall of the Timurid Empire.
Okay, but riddle me this, Mikosk.
Hmm.
Where was Timur born?
In contemporary Uzbekistan.
Boom. You see? You see?
That's This is some. This is some. This is some. The Roman Empire was Serbian because there were Roman emperors that were born in Siminium, which is modern day Serbia. Was it
Yeah,
modern day
exactly.
Serbia?
Yeah, but I one better than that. Capital of the Timurid Empire. That not the Mughals of India, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The original one.
There were various, but yeah, but I know the question, and the answer is Samarkand.
Which modern country is Samarkand in, Mikosk?
Is it really in Uzbekistan?
Yep. You see, Uzbek through and through. I mean, you can't argue with this facts and logic, Mikosk.
I just. I don't know, Chief. It just.
Right. Of all the
Oh,
people born in modern day Uzbekistan, who is the most famous, would you say, in world history?
that would be Timurid. But
You see?
that's I mean, I know nationalism makes no sense when looked under any, and I do mean any rigorous analysis. But I don't know, Chief. Like
Mikosk, I'm saying
this is nearly Scotland tier of nationalism here.
I think this is nationalism at some of its most logical.
If if this is it as most logical, by God, then the Nazis weren't even the peak of illogical.
I mean, like they were, but they like Himmler was in Tibet and shit. You know, it's like that was way weirder than this. It's like, oh, he was from Uzbekistan and he had an empire and he was centered in Uzbekistan,
I
and
mean,
there was no better proximity actually during the time of Tamerlane for Uzbekistan than his thing ish.
yeah,
It adds up.
yeah, but at the same time, you have to admit that like they focusing. Well, maybe it's this is the perspective of two outsiders looking in, which it's probably is what we're called. It probably is the truth of this. Is that it's find it weird because like the Shaivanid dynasty did produce some absolute bangers. Like maybe to the Shaivanid dynasty. And now I'm imagining like a family band called the Shaibanis, um, singing Sufi music because why not? Um, no, but the main issue is that I don't know. I just think that focus on Timur, who really should be a focus on Persian history, mind. Um, that's a call out for Encyclopedia Iranica for having no fucking articles on Timurid, on the Timurid period, just in general.
Okay, right, but here's the thing. I'm sure if you go to Uzbekistan,
No,
I'm
that's
sure there's stuff about the Shaibanids, right?
yeah, I know, I understand, but like, as I literally prefaced my statement, this is probably the perspective of an outsider looking in. Maybe it's just because maybe it's just because my probably also due to my fucking search history profile optimization. I just if I look up Uzbekistan, Timurid pops up. Maybe a less Timurid obsessed Westerner would find statues of the Shaibanids associated with Uzbekistan. Yeah. I would one of these days like to go to Samarkand, probably to check out if my completely hyper romanticized view of the city holds up.
Okay, but like think about it this way, Mikosk, right? Like like Timur like set up like trade networks and and also a little bit of cheeky plunder, right? And where did all the wealth go, right?
I mean, that's a debatable question because Timurid economics was not exact. I mean, based on what little evidence we have from
Incredibly roughly, right? Like not like doing like a deep follow the money analysis, right? Just like in where did it de jure go?
okay, well, it would have gone to northern Persia. Well, not northern Persia. That means something different these days. Uh, the area around Samarkand, going down
Yeah,
to like Khorasan. That's the name of the region. It would have gone to Khorasan mostly, which is not only just Uzbekistan but a large amount of area around it.
yeah, okay, but it's not Uzbekistan, right?
It's it's not. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, I'll concede. I'll concede. It's just I find it weird. Okay, like bronze.
Yeah.
I'll put you in the mental image, right? Imagine if the Cumans had destroyed Russia completely and utterly. They were now gone, disappeared. The Rurikids gone. Romanov's not even in play. And I don't know how many hundreds of years later, all of a sudden, you have the mighty state of Cumania, who being Muslim, or other variation of Christian, not Orthodox for the analogy to make absolute sense, is making statues of, I don't fucking know, Ivan Moneybags. I can't believe I forgot his actual. his actual nickname. You're
Ivan
talking about
Kalita, but Kalita
that's the
means
one.
money bags. That's why he's called Ivan Moneybags. I mean,
I know. I guess I don't know. I felt the need I had to say it in Russian. But yeah, you have to admit that it's a bit odd.
yeah, but Tamerlane, he was Sunni, right?
I mean, yes, he was a sword of Islam, but it bears noting that he was the sword of Islam that killed the most Muslims out of anyone else.
Sure. Yeah, but like you say that for the analogy to make sense, the new human state would have to be not orthodox, right? But I mean, Tamerlane was Sunni. The Shaybanids
100%.
were Sunni. Most people today in Uzbekistan are Sunni, right? So it adds up.
I suppose the logic can be well, not absurdist. Like translatio imperii is just translatio imperii, of like translatio imperii. We kill literally. We must kill the Timurids to be the Timurids kind of logic. Well, I'm.
All right, okay, but you've given. I'll give another example, right?
Mhm.
King Arthur, which I know King Arthur's sort of different because he's not fully historical, but just go with
Mhm.
it.
Sure.
Right. In the original Welsh legends, who does King Arthur fight? Not even in the Welsh legends, but like in Monmouth's history of the kings of Britain, who is King Arthur fighting?
The Anglo-Saxons, pagans notably.
Sure, but he's fighting the Anglo-Saxons. And then which whomst is it that later go on, which makes King Arthur one of their principal heroes?
England.
You see?
Yeah, but in the you work against yourself, Bronze, because when England was Catholic, that made sense. Now they're Anglican. It no longer makes sense
What do you mean it no longer makes sense?
because you're no longer Catholic. So you can no longer claim that even in defeat and in the abyss of history, King Arthur's triumphed for the Saxons are now Christians.
Right, but I mean, it's all the same church, Mkoqsc, because it's like you got the. I'm not gonna hit you with the Tractarianism just now, but the point is, right? Fair enough, in terms of the King Arthur thing, right? But in Uzbekistan, Sunni is Sunni is Sunni, right? So
Yeah, I suppose I must concede I'm being too much of a crudgmongly anti-nationalist.
right, like like rarely does nationalism make this much sense, Mikosk.
I suppose.
Right, there was a guy, and I mean, he sort of killed a bunch of people, right? But he brought a lot of wealth. He built some shit, right? And he expanded and had an empire that was centered just around where we live, and also he was from where we live, and also he was the same religion that we are, right? Like that makes sense.
I guess.
Right, because I feel like you're bringing your own right, because like you're bringing like the modern Uzbek identity onto the Shaybanids in a way that I'm not sure quite makes sense.
Well, but clear, but it's. I mean, I guess I suppose the Uzbek consciousness only emerged under Russian occupation, as it is often the case. Well, not that Russian occupation is a universal constant necessary for national consciousness. It's just that when you're being occupied by a foreign people, you tend to become hyper aware of yourself. So
Sure, but I'm not even making that claim. I'm just saying, right? Like I'm sure, like they were Uzbek, right? But it's just like you bring in like like I'm just saying that the Timurids weren't ousted by the national conscience of Uzbekistan. It's like they were just replaced by it's like he was I mean, fuck it, he was Uzbek. He was from Uzbekistan, right? So that makes
yes,
sense.
the atemporal, undying concept of Uzbekistan, co-eternal with God. Um,
I mean, right? And then he was killed, but right, but like the Shaybanins didn't oust Timur. They ousted some who knows what descendant of his, right? Like that I'm sure that guy's not like a. They don't build statues of that guy, right? But the original, that's very possible.
I suppose. I guess I must concede you do have a point. Plus, like, uh, I guess I must concede in that at this point my opposition stands on no rational basis, just me finding it weird.
Right, but like most examples of like national nation building heroes are weirder.
I'll give you that much. True. Yeah, fine. I'll concede. Still, going back now, going back on the topic of Central Asian history, it's like first, people aren't aware of how settled vis-a-vis nomadic, like a lot of Central Asia was, because people seem to assume that it was like an upwards trend of absolute nomadism, with it reaching essentially contemporary times of absolute sedentariness, which is not necessarily true. There were states in Central Asia. I'm using a bit of a even laxer definition of Central Asia since I'm extending it to go as up north as the polar ice cap in some interpretations. Um, you had multiple societies that were settled in Central Asia. I mean, the Kyrgyz Empire, the first one, did have cities. Granted that was but a fraction of their empire, but still, the degree of settling vis-a-vis not settling in Central Asia has not been on any particular trend until very recently, and has in fact been a kind of a wave thing, with some periods it being more comparatively settled and other periods it being more nomadic.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's definitely varied.
yeah, because like you are correct that a lot of people think the Uzbeks were nomadic, or worse still, think the Manchus were nomadic. Like, I mean, I suppose a larger portion of Uzbeks would have been nomadic than vis-a-vis, say, the Manchus when they started. The the but the truth is, yes, you can be a sedentary people, but have cavalry-only armies. Because let's be honest, Bronze, a lot of the time in pop history, that's the mark of a nomadic empire. You have a lot of cavalry.
Sure, but like there was Uzbek infantry. Like
Yeah,
that's a thing.
there is a
There
thing.
were nomads with infantry even.
Indeed, contrary to what pop history says, leads you to believe no one specializes that hard on anything. I mean, because by that logic, then there was no settled society in the West until the 1600s, because it was all majority cavalry.
That seems
By the logic,
debatable.
by the logic, by the, if people are nomadic because they have an army composed disproportionately of cavalry or entirely out of cavalry, then by logic it follows that a number of Western states from the medieval era until the 1600s and at the absolute latest were in fact nomadic because their armies would have been largely composed of cavalry.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows that England was settled but became nomadic with the Norman conquest.
Yes, makes absolute sense, says pop history. Um, I I wish pop history was that aggressively wrong, because at least then it would be admirable in its absurdity.
I mean, there's good pop history out there.
Oh, I'm not saying otherwise, hence, I mean, we're making a joke about an angle that didn't happen because no matter its flaws, pop history does have its virtues. It's just that, I find it weird, basically, how nomadic empires are treated by pop history, and to a lesser degree, historians. Like, well, like it's, I don't know. Maybe again, this is my perspective, which, as we've proven in the past half hour, nearly half hour, can be intensely slanted and not entirely rational. But like, I don't know, Chief. Sometimes I just get the impression that they're like brushed aside or considered barbarians with what little with first their cultural achievements being considered little and being kind of used as an almost sardonic silver lining, which I think is unfair.
I mean, I don't. Is that? I don't think that's a common view among historians.
No, 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 no. This part I wanted to specify was more towards pop history than historians.
But I think
Historians,
I think there's not.
historians. I know this isn't the 1960s bronze anymore. I am aware of that. It's not as bad, and I know that like
I don't.
historians don't do this anymore. I hope, but like the average bloke, come on, bronze.
Okay, yeah.
They still pretty much have this opinion, no? Or am I just too much like? Is this too much a continental v Anglo point?
I don't think it's a continental v Anglo thing. I don't like. I think you're exaggerating. I mean, I'm not saying like that. Like necessarily everyone has a great appreciation of like what was going on the steppe historically, right? Like like Chinggis Khan is like, oh, there's the like the lamentation of the women, and then they right, the John Wayne Genghis Khan, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I don't
So.
think that like, I mean the shadow of John Wayne's Genghis looms over us, but I don't think that's like the full view that most people have of it.
Mm, maybe just different encounters with people, I guess. I don't know. It's just like when talking about steppe empires, it often goes, "Oh, look at it, it's big," but then almost as if to, I don't know. Uh, they point out stuff like, "Oh, but it was empty," or "There was nothing in there. It was big, but it was empty," and I'm like, "The fuck." I don't know. I don't know, man. Maybe I just got exposed to a bunch of assholes on Central Asian history, I guess. But yeah,
I mean that's possible. I mean it is true that like the like I might have like a selection bias thing here. I hope that like it's not all like that in the real world, but most because I'd say that if you were to sample all the people I talk to, that there's like an above average knowledge of
I mean,
central. Yeah,
consider considering your podcaster partner is it started on a Central Asia rant because he read the Tarik-I-Rashidi when he wasn't supposed to. I'm going to say that yeah, that average is probably a bit slanted to say the least.
yeah. So just not to flex or anything, but Mkoqsc, but for like like you're on the average, right?
Ouch.
I know.
But okay.
No, I mean, yeah, right. And I'd say you have an above average knowledge, right? That's a good thing, right? But it's like yeah. So maybe I didn't have a proper conception of what the average knowledge is, but I wager it wasn't as grim as you're making it out to be. But
I mean, fair enough. God, no. I am the resident pessimist, I guess. It's just that maybe because like in school and shit, the steppe empires weren't really a focus because well, it's Portuguese history. Not even Portugal is a focus on Portuguese history. Uh, uh, I mean, I would love it if one day back then it was this. Okay, kids, open up page 26. Today, the intricacies of the Khitan state in Central Asia. I mean, I would have loved that, but come on now, we didn't even get page one: Portuguese colonialism in Africa. We didn't get that. In fact, we got so little about colonialism. It is in. I mean, I would say shameful, but when everyone's doing it, it's just depressing.
Yeah, they didn't hit you with the right. Okay, this is the gear yacht distinction.
Yeah, yeah, the gear yurt distinction. They don't explain. Although the term nomadic is used, in fact, it most often is used to refer to transhumant peoples who merely go on a set pattern, rather than nomads who go. Rather than the term nomad, who that implies that they have no settled place, as opposed to transhumant. But nomad sounds better, so it's stuck. Which is an actual thing, by the way. Technically, a lot of these nomadic empires are more accurately described as transhumant rather than nomadic, but transatlantic empires doesn't sound that nice now, does it?
Yeah, there's definitely transhuman empires, but I mean, they still have a good amount of proper nomads.
I suppose that is true. I guess I'm just maybe I'm
But
just
yeah,
like the. I mean, it's still a disclaimer that has to be said that although they're
but
called nomadic, a significant portion are probably transhumant, and that does not mean that no settled people lived within it.
yeah, and even then, you have just plain herders, right? That just like live in one spot all the time, but they just keep
Heard.
animals instead of they just herd, right? Because like herder equals nomadic, right?
Not really.
Not
I mean,
really,
depends a bit.
but
Depends on the local conditions more than anything, I guess.
yeah, sure. I mean, herders are often nomadic, right? But I mean, yeah. We're getting way off. Is there a track? I guess there's not a track.
No,
This
there
is
is
the
no
video.
track. This is the
We are
video,
the
like.
track. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
What kind of fucking weirdos are we when people like hand you the mic and say think of something, and two young adults just say, yeah, what about 1 hour of just random ass shit about Central Asian history?
Fuck it. It goes.
It flies. It flies.
Yeah.
Speaking about flying, which is to say soaring above the steppes,
Like an
administration
eagle.
of like an eagle, trampling all the farmland underneath. Uh, a thing that's often not brought up is the administration of steppe empires, which I mean, I guess those in the know that well. I mean, it's surprising in the sense of how intensely Persian it can be at times, and how literate it can all be. Actually, that would be something I would like to like see if there's a study. Literacy rates of the Muslim world vis that of the Christian throughout the ages. I mean,
That would be interesting.
I'm sure some people can come up with a theoretical model of sorts, even if no hard data can ever be found. Actually, this is incredibly interesting because this is how the Tajiks came into being. Originally, the Tajiks referred to Persians. In fact, in the 1200s, Persians typically settled ones, though nomadic Persians did exist, or I guess the more accurate term would be Iranics. Um, uh, were called Tajik by their Turkish ruler. Tajik is just Turkish for Persian, or was. And we have accounts of Persian just identifying with the term Tajik. A lot of these were basically brought up to administer the later, especially the later you go in Central Asia and Muslim, Turco-Mongol states bureaucracy. Indeed, fact, the administration of many a Turco-Mongol state and consequent steppe empire, even if not necessarily Turco-Mongol, was this separation of administration goes to the Tajiks, which is to say the Iranian-speaking population, largely settled and engaged in trade. War making and ruleship goes to the Turkish population, Turkic, as the name implies, Turkish-speaking, engaged in war and herding and, well, being the rulers, as it were. So, like, it's often, especially when you start to reading up history on it. I guess this is a bit colored by previous biases on my aspect, but like how intensely literate and like bureaucratic the administration of some of these steppe empires can be.
Yeah. Yeah. But also, just because I feel like this needs a disclaimer, when Mkoqsc says Tajik, he doesn't necessarily mean Tajikistan. Uh, is it a bit like the word Tajik, right? Because Tajikistan is just called that because loads of Farsi speakers, well, like Persian people live there. That's why it's, the land of the Tajiks, or the land of the Persians.
Yeah. Does Tajikistan still speak a majority Iranian language?
Yeah, they're majority Farsi speaking.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just thought this would be one of those. Oh God, I forgot the name of the country. Baku is in which country?
Azerbaijan.
The Azeris, and how like a lot of people now consider the Azeris to be Turkic when in fact they're not. They just happen
Can
to
we?
speak a
Can
Turkic.
I? We're not gonna get into
It,
this, Mikosk. I don't want to get cancelled on the internet, right? Like, I'm not.
okay.
But yeah, I mean, the Tajiks just like speak straight up Farsi. That's.
Mm.
I mean, it's like I've heard it's different, but it's very intelligible. But yeah, it's like Farsi but written in Cyrillic. That's the thing.
Yeah. Or do they have plans to switch from Cyrillic to another script, like the neighboring Kazakhs? Tajikistan has
Uh,
a
uh,
land border with Kazakhstan. I'm not going nuts, am I?
you're going completely nuts. It doesn't.
Fuck! Um, the nearby Kazakhs.
Sure, that goes. I mean, they're only separated by like a thin isthmus of Uzbekistan. So I guess yeah, that goes.
I can already see like the ghost of Borat just floating above me and strangling me to death for this. Yeah. Oh, also, in case you didn't know, listener, yes, the Kazakhstan. I hope I'm not mistaking the Central Asian country, but I have a very strong inclination that it is Kazakhstan. Is planning to switch from Cyrillic to. No, wait a minute. It's not Kazakhstan. It's Mongolia. Fucking hell, I'm an idiot.
It is
Ah.
Kazakhstan.
Wait, it is Kazakhstan, but I thought it was Mongolia. Huh?
Mongolia has like a Kazakhstan is like 2025 Latin script. Mongolia is like maybe we're looking at it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, that
Kazakhstan
explains why.
is like has a date and everything.
Oh, so it is really big officials. Huh. I wonder if it will be a Poland kind of scenario. Because, like, you know how Polish is written with the Latin alphabet, but that's not necessarily the best alphabet for the language to be spoken. Hence why, like, Polish writing Polish and Latin alphabet produces a shit ton of written consonants, as opposed to Cyrillic, where the sounds are just more compressed.
Have you? I don't want to.
Am,
I
am,
feel
am I just stepping on minefield onto minefield for the past nine
okay.
minutes?
Look, Mikosk, I'm not. Look, I mean, it's the rant episode, right? But it's like I'm not sure that I'm 100 on that take.
Oh, I know it's no like I know it's no longer like necessarily absolutely the case because language changes and all that. Just
No, I mean
pointing
I'm
out,
just like not even that, but it's like, have you seen Cyrillic Polish? Do you read Cyrillic? Not to bully or anything, but
fair point. I guess I just assumed it was better because the Cyrillic alphabet was designed for Slavic languages.
no, but here's the thing, right? Here's the thing I gotta make understand, Mkoqsc.
Hmm.
Polish just has a lot of consonants. That's just what the language is.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn. I
Well, I
just
mean,
thought
I'm
German.
not sure like if the ratio is like actually different, but it just has a lot of consonants. That's why it's like if you look at other Slavic languages written in Latin alphabet, like I don't know, Czech or Slovak, there's not as
Hmm.
many consonants because it's just like Polish has a lot of consonants. That's just why if you look at Cyrillic Polish, as opposed to say Russian, it has more consonants. I mean, I'm looking at some Polish Cyrillic right now, and okay, perhaps it's not as many, but it's still a good few.
Fair enough. I'll concede. I'll concede. I'll concede. This is what I get for parroting statements you hear on the internet. Uh, but
I mean, if Polish people have input, I think. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it, and
other than calling me an asshole, I guess, because like this is the tragedy of no, of ranty episodes. I suppose my stupidity comes out in full force.
no, I mean, there's just like I don't, I understand what you mean. Because there's a lot of consonants in Polish, right? Like that. But
Yeah, well,
I mean,
yeah.
but that's just
You have a point. I was the observation was correct. Polish has a lot of consonants. I was merely drawing the wrong conclusion. Polish has a lot of consonants because of the Latin alphabet, rather than Polish just has a lot of consonants because it is Polish.
yeah, that's just the languages, right? And like Polish people communicate effectively with the Latin alphabet all the time, right? So that's clearly fine.
Yeah. I'm not saying like with. I mean, I do not think that there is a all languages work with all alphabets, methinks. It's just like a degree of convenience. Chinese worked perfectly fine with traditional Chinese, and it works perfectly fine with simplified Chinese. It's just one is more convenient than the other. Just realize that this statement is also intensely political.
I mean, I'm gonna stay clear of that statement, right? Because that I know that's a spicy statement. I don't speak, or even because I read Cyrillic, but I don't read uh,
Yeah,
Chinese. So I couldn't tell you. I
I mean, both of them clearly function. I'm merely making the claim, and this is like I have seen the characters. I have seen the literal diagrams of how not the diagrams, the fucking gifs, I guess, of how you're supposed to draw them the simplified vis-a-vis traditional. There is a noted decrease in the amount of, I guess, paintbrushing in simplified Chinese vis-a-vis traditional. Like I am merely stating that I was using the example of different, though related alphabets, well, not alphabets because they're not alphabetic, scripts, and how, well, any script works with any language because, that's the nature of the script. I'm merely pointing out that the reason historically, though not necessarily today, one script survives vis-a-vis the other in a language that has in a linguistic zone that has multiple scripts is that the script that is more simplistic or more convenient wins out.
Yeah. Okay.
I can imagine that this take has been that this take is just all levels of wrong, and you secretly hate me.
I don't secretly hate you, if I, but okay. Look. No, but I just, to be completely 100 with you, Broseph, I don't think this is your most baked take.
No, no, it isn't. This is 45 minutes in. Mkoqsc didn't plan anything. Brain is like adrift at sea, and it's way too fucking hot for me to be thinking properly.
We're adrift, baby.
Adrift in a sea of hot.
Yeah, so I didn't. This was certainly a unique episode, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's still 45 minutes in, Bronze. Even though I know you want to end it right here, but look, come
No,
on now.
I mean, we're going. I mean, I'm powering through, right? Like this is,
Yeah, we're
you
doing
heard
the
a leg
power
day.
walk.
This is a brain day.
Yeah, except one of the frontal lobes, EI me, isn't working well.
No pain, no
Uh,
gain.
I suppose. But still, since this unexpected Central Asia episode,
Very vaguely Central Asia episode.
very vaguely Central Asian episode, considering the shit we've been mentioning. Uh, hey, Central Asia goes up to the polar ice cap.
That's right.
Uh, just,
I
uh,
mean, where the fuck is even Central Asia? Like, I'm at this point, I genuinely don't know.
I mean, it is true, like, because, I mean, I guess at least I, operate under modern borders, except backported to the past, which doesn't necessarily make any sense. But like
Sure.
north of like Iran and Afghanistan, it's Central Asia.
Right, because I know that some people, right, use it extremely specifically.
How specific are we talking?
It's two rivers.
Wow. So what, the Amr
Like,
Daya and the Sir Daya?
I think it's the Amadaya. That's definitely one of them.
Yeah, it has to be the Amr Daya.
Right, to hold on. I'm genuinely looking at the map now because which one is the I've forgotten the course of the Surdaria.
And before it's Amr Daya to the Volga, which would be a spicy take.
Go hit me with the this baseness, Miguel. No, it's not. It's bigger than that. I think. I think it's the Oka River.
Oh. So Amr Daya to Oka River. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
right. But then some people go huge.
okay. What's the other extreme then?
Is Mongolia Central Asia, Mikosk?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. Because I've heard people say that it is, but at that point, like,
I mean,
where
it's
does
it's
it
it's
end?
as it's as Central Asian as Portugal is Mediterranean.
Fuck, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, because it is true. Like, although
Like,
it might geographically not technically make the cut due to interconnection, interdependence, and similarity of climate and lifestyle, it just gets slaughtered as it. So yeah, Mongolia is the Portugal of Central Asia. Once incredibly important to world history, now tragically irrelevant. The comparison just keeps getting better the longer you take it, mate. I'm telling you.
Oh God. I don't know. I mean, I'm leaning towards the specificity of the
Amur,
term, right?
Amur Daya
The,
to Orkhon River. I mean, that seems like that covered like the core area and then some. Like I
right.
do
So,
not I do
like,
not.
yeah, that's like the classical definition. But if you wanted to be modern about it, you'd say Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan goes a bit further, but you know,
Uh,
yeah.
I mean that one also works because by happenstance there was also a lot in that area. But like,
Right,
eh,
I think that's the Central Asia. I mean, right, but like I'm fuck it. We're going back to the rivers.
yeah, no, I
Because
like the
like
river
the river
because it
one
has its
is
own.
more geographically coherent.
Yeah, than just the borders of the countries.
Yeah, but like if you were telling someone without aid of a map where it was, that would be what it was. But we're cutting off northern Kazakhstan. Not I mean, obviously, it's Central Asia in a modern context,
Uh, I mean,
right?
if I was to be okay, wait, which one of the what's that sea in Central Asia? The one that isn't dried out yet?
The fucking Caspian.
Yeah, the Caspian. The Caspian.
Yeah.
From the Caspian Sea to Tibet.
Okay. Yeah.
That would be like the geographic one I would go with. Like to explain to someone else where is like in between in between the Caspian Sea to the Himalayas, essentially. Well, I guess
Okay. Yeah.
it goes a bit too far west to be really rigorous. Hence why people prefer the Amadaya Orkhon River one, which I still which yeah no that one makes sense. I like that one.
Also, if we're going by Caspian Sea to Tibet, that would put Afghanistan. Well,
I would
the
not consider that
northern.
yeah the
Right.
northern
I mean,
bit.
look, you're the one that supplied this definition, Mkoqsc.
Well, first I supplied it as a simplistic way to
I know.
like as a
I
yeah,
know.
but I mean I would hold but no, I think it still holds. Like
It holds. It very roughly it
Afghanistan
holds.
had it. Afghanistan had the entirety of Afghanistan at times actually was under nomadic control. Some areas of northern Afghanistan, is it northern Afghanistan or am I mistaking with Pakistan? Are still have a large proportion of nomads and herders to this day. It's either Afghanistan or Pakistan, I can't remember. So no, I think it holds. I'm officially baptizing northern Afghanistan as Central Asia.
Okay, so like nomadism is the key feature of Central Asia.
Not quite. I would point out towards climate, which I guess ties back into nomadism, but the focus is like the environment because like that's I think like let me put it like this: if you picked up a Western nation and just dumped it all into into Central Asia, they would eventually become nomadic, but that's because of the climate, not because the abstract Platonic ideal of nomadism just finds its perfect and more godly manifestation in Central Asia. I think like the
I mean, look, Central Asia is a big place, right? I mean, like the Uzbeks are traditionally, settled, right? Like most people in Central Asia, don't quote me on this statistic, live in or near the Fergana Valley, right?
Hmm.
Right, and that's a very agriculturalist area, right? Like if you were
Yeah,
to,
but that's yeah, but bronze. But like you're competing against nomadic populational density vis-a-vis settled populational density. Like on the grand scheme of things, of course the settleds are going to win because that's why they won historically as a massive thing.
but that's my point exactly, right? Is that the majority experience of Central Asia is a settled one, right?
I suppose, but like, let me put it like this, okay? Portugal, right?
Yeah.
I'm going. Mongolia is the Portugal of Central Asia. I like that one so much. Hmm? Portugal's most relevant endeavor historically has been naval. The
Okay.
vast majority of the Portuguese people, even back then and now, were not engaged in naval pursuits. It is not for many. It was not a relevant part of life.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
So what I'm basically trying to say is that, and when people think about the historical Portuguese Empire and like whatever the fuck Portugal was doing, they think primarily about naval stuff, because of course I do not consider it unreasonable
Right.
to
Okay. But
to associate nomadism with Central Asia, but I still hold the position that no, Central Asia is not where the nomadism happened. Central Asia is merely an area defined by a very specific type of climate that can also that very extreme type of climate, but generally a dry one. Not to mean that there aren't areas that are very wet and humid with river valleys and what have you, but still.
yeah. I mean, it's very complex, and also right. Not just to get back to this thing, right? Like it's huge,
It's fucking massive.
right? Like if we were to like place it on top of Europe, right?
What, like, I mean, you could easily fit Portugal, Spain, France, England, Germany, Italy. Italy by volume rather than just like placing it, just like fitting it because awkward shapes and all that. Poland, Hungary, like a lot of Europe. Like a lot of
Yeah,
Europe.
like it's the size of like the main structure of like of Europe, right? So it's like if we cut off Italy and the Iberian Peninsula and we just forgot about Scandinavia and England, right? Like that's how big it is, right? Like the main.
Hmm. Yeah, the big torso thingy.
Yeah, it's the
Or I
size
get,
of the torso of Europe.
yeah. I just realized I made an oblique reference to that fucking image of Europe as a woman that we referenced on the Habsburg episode. It's not a Habsburg episode, but we talked a lot about the Habsburgs in that episode.
I mean,
Um,
I'd say it's the Habsburg episode, right? Like it's got Habsburg in the title.
the Habsburg episode. I just and like just hit me. Not everyone necessarily watched that episode. I mean, I hope not everyone necessarily watches this stuff unless they're really into our rants.
I mean, this
But yeah,
this is a
no.
very concept episode. Yeah, but although the concept, yeah, the torso. I'm trying to think, because the torso on that woman was not. Uh, anyway, right? It's not necessarily the torso of the woman that we're
Yeah,
going by, because I think it's bigger than that, because it's
yeah,
huge.
yeah,
That's
it's
the point.
massive.
So it's a very
And
diverse set of experiences going on.
yeah, but I do not. But I still think that Central Asia. It makes sense to define it primarily climatically, because if you do that, you also get the Tarim Basin, which is very very important for for Central Asian history, like trade routes and shit. So
Sure,
I
but I mean,
think.
I don't think you need to like right. I think Central Asia is like a self-referential unit. Not to get all set theory with you, right? But like It isn't a set of circumstances that like, oh, this is has that climate or the nomadism. Therefore, this thing is the Central Asia because that's the bit that we've called Central Asia. Right? I don't think
Hmm.
it makes sense to define it by condition.
So Central Asia is just Central Asia, and Central Asia is Central Asia onto the nth degree.
Yeah, because we've defined it as Central Asia, right? It's just like a lot of people are like, oh, Mongolia is Central Asia because they have the name, but it's like this is a specific place, and that's the place. As much as any place is the place, right? But obviously, it's not like a specific. It's not like once you cross the Amadaya River, it's like the world on the other side is completely different, right? Like that's not the point.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you cross the Amadai River, and all of a sudden, it's just a It's the human ecumenopolis is just starts there, just a wall of urbanization, as far as the horizon can see.
No, I mean, I'm sure life on either side of it is similar. What near it,
Much,
obviously.
well, much the same like how any life, how any human existence on X place of the planet is similar to any other life on X place of the planet because we're all humans. There's only so much difference we can have. Suppose that was a bit of a too oblique a point to make, I guess, on my end,
Yeah, I mean,
because that was you were
like now we're
obviously
getting
not
into
talking
some.
about the you were obviously not talking about that.
Right, yeah, obviously, like we can say that, like, the distinct, like Central Asia as a distinguished fire doesn't matter because people on both inside and outside of it have to face the fundamental hurdle of their aloneness in the face of the divine, right? But that's a different point.
Yeah, that's you've heard of Russia from Russia with love. We're bringing you from Central Asia with God. Um, that's
I
such a good title. That's going to be the episode title. From Central Asia with God, unless you have a slightly better version.
No, that's great. Yeah, that's the thing. I think that's enough for today. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. We already gave too much information to the listener on like the daily thought process that goes into the episodes.
yeah, I mean, I don't know what this was. But yeah, there you go.
It was
That was
fun. That's what it matters.
yeah. All right. Good night.
Good night.